Welcome, my 347 subs, everyone who was disturbed when Tony Khan tweeted like 7 straight times thanking people watching his show, everyone who doesn't harass female wrestlers online and justify their actions as attempting to save the business that you're not in, or that has shunned you for one reason or another, and everyone who's not a mouth-breathing loser neckbeard troll. As stated by Ruby Soho, welcome to my review of AEW Dynamite for the March 8th show. Like the video, comment, and subscribe. Let's begin. So the first match on the card is Orange Cassidy versus Jay Lethal for the All-Atlantic Championship. So I'm a fan of Orange Cassidy and I like this feud as well as everyone involved. I'm interested in the Golden Globe story with Paul Walter Hauser because Blackbird is an awesome show and you should watch it. But I've been seeing Orange Cassidy week after week after week, while I've been seeing the Elite less and less, as well as my other favorites, like Keith Lee and Swerve. Aren't they supposed to be in a blood feud? And they're over on Rampage? Orange literally won 2 matches in one night, like at the show before the pay-per-view. That's a bit of overexposure. We're getting too much and thus are getting sick of the guy. And the All-Atlantic Champion is supposed to travel, but he's on Dynamite every week. Like, what sense does that make? I know the stats point towards Orange Cassidy being a ratings draw. Even Tony Khan boasted about this. But the analytics, unlike in sports, don't always work in an entertainment-based, non-competitive, scripted program. And we've seen him and Jay Lethal in singles matches for like 3 times now, and that's diminishing returns if you're not gonna add a stipulation. Ratings went up, but not by a lot. Diminishing returns. And what's with Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, Satnam Singh, and Sanjay Dutt? I like the faction, but sometimes they should be on Rampage. And it's worse for them since they're not as over as Orange Cassidy. And Jeff Jarrett has this like stigma around him. Even Jay Lethal, like a little bit. They need to be kept off of TV. The Golden Globe story needs to be resolved. Like, that has to be the main thing before it spoils and no one would care about it anymore. Like, even less than people do now. You need to get these guys off of TV before it's too late and the damage will be irreparable. The next champion should travel, or whoever wins next week's match. And Tony Khan expected this to be the ratings boost, but looking at Brandon Thurston's chart, it didn't draw 1 million. And you need your opening segments to draw 1 million, so you'll have a shot at getting like 1 million viewers. Since no one comes in after that, that's your like starting point. It just goes down as the show goes on. That's why load the start of the card. Not necessarily the main event. Don't put it there. But have it be a viable enough draw that's either a hot segment or a hot match with people who haven't been overexposed. And have the match be exciting because this match right here was made to go later on in the card. It looked like this crowd was primed for something exciting. But it's the 1 week that Orange Cassidy and Jay Lethal decide to like have a slow limb working storytelling match. I mean, if the match was put somewhere else and not the opener, I would have enjoyed it more. The positive of this is that Orange showed that he can wrestle the style of like a WWE or like just the style that the old heads like. Him and Lethal just consistently sold their injured limbs. Left leg for Cassidy, left shoulder for Lethal. It's the sort of match that people would declare has good storytelling, but sometimes storytelling gets in the way of good matches. And storytelling can be done in other ways other than this. But they did too much of this. There was too much limb working that it just looked like 2 injured dudes fighting and they shouldn't be there. Another bright side is that it doesn't follow the usual structure. It's just that it felt like they were following the usual structure. And this isn't how rubber matches should be. It should be like an epic release of whatever hatred they have for each other. It should be bombs and it should be an epic encounter. And this match didn't feel that way. Top 2 spots of the match. I think number 2 is the military press leg slam. I mean, it looked nice. I mean, it made sense to the match's story, but not very impressive to look at. It's number 2. And the number 1 is the finish. And the finish is Jay Lethal goes for the lethal injection. His shoulder gives out, and then Orange hits him with an orange punch for the win. Great storytelling moment, but this needed more meat in between. So I'm giving this like a TV undercard, pay-per-view undercard match. If Starks versus Jericho can make it to a pay-per-view, this should be able to. So yeah, post-match segment is Jeff Jarrett attacks Orange after Jay Lethal makes it seem like a diversion. And I didn't get this at first. I thought the whole match was a diversion so that Jeff could do his thing. That needed to be worded better by commentary. But yeah, as for the post-match, Jeff Jarrett successfully hits Orange with his guitar, prompting Orange to challenge him for next week at the Winnipeg show. And I'm just gonna talk about this whole storyline here, since we get another segment regarding this. And it's Tony Khan's announcement. So Tony Khan is the one who announces Orange versus Jarrett for the Winnipeg show. But he also announces a name change for the belt. And the way he does this is very clunky. Man needs a better scriptwriter. Because he says something about this will be the last time the belt will be defended on foreign soil. But since the belt is being renamed, just say this is the last time the belt will be defended, period. Or come up with a better line. It's technically still the same belt, so you don't have to make it this dramatic. And as for the name change itself, I'm like okay with it. It makes much more sense, and some people are asking what's the difference between an international championship and a world championship. And scientifically, the international championship involves the countries on the Earth's surface, while world championship involves the crust, the mantle, inner and outer core, as well as the surface. But yeah, maybe like one more word could have made the title's name better and less confusing. Maybe an international touring championship or something like that. Inter-promotional championship. But yeah, after this is like this trailer of Shazam 2 that's interspersed with Orange and Jeff Jarrett. And this was just weird. They're not even your biggest stars. They're not MJF. Like, why have them be the ones to be here? I guess it's nice to have such a big mainstream movie that's actually not bad be attached to your show. It's not Everything Everywhere All at Once or All Quiet on the Western Front, but it's a pretty good superhero movie, the first one. Blackbird, though, is awesome. So yeah, that's for the whole International Championship storyline. They just need to stop overexposing Orange Cassidy and the heel faction who show up every week and people are already getting sick of. So yeah. So after this is like a back and forth, but like they each cut separate promos. They show the promos at separate times, but it's like pretty connected. And it's the Powerhouse Hobbs and Wardlow hyping up their match for later tonight. So I love how Hobbs and Wardlow played up how important the gear and the championship were that were stolen. Hobbs doesn't fumble through his words, like most big guys in promos. He's actually really good, and he comes off as very real. The content is a simple, I'm gonna beat you promo. And then as for Wardlow's reply, I like the nice detail that he's wearing an FTR shirt. He's friends with them, so they lent him a shirt. It's a merch shirt that has like a second intention of promoting FTR, putting them over. But at least Wardlow has something to wear. The match is converted into a street fight, and there we go. That's the main event. And his promo, it's better. It's more understandable now than the last time. Good facial expressions, but sounds a bit more animated, not as real as Powerhouse Hobbs, but that's okay. They both did good in this one. And there isn't really a bad promo for tonight's Dynamite. Speaking of promos that are not bad, enters Ricky Starks, and thank God the feud with JAS is over. He's free to move on to more important stuff. He cuts a basic babyface promo with all of his charisma. He doesn't even mention Chris Jericho, thank God. He's about to declare what path he's going on next, but it gets chosen for him. Bullet Club logo and music plays. And people thought it was actually Jay White. Everyone forgot about Juice Robinson, who's employed by AEW. When this happened, immediately, I knew it was Juice. I was hoping it would be like Juice, Kenta, and like just like a collection of these guys. Maybe a trios. Maybe Juice, Kenta, Ace Austin, and Chris Bay. But it's just Juice. And then he attacks Starks. He doesn't say anything. He just looks charismatic and then end scene. I think this was okay. I don't think Starks is like an upper card guy yet. I guess Jay White would have been cool, but seriously, I think he's WWE bound. Like, he fits more there, and he's pretty much like Ricky Starks. 100% speech stats, very good on the mic, but when it comes to the in-ring action, not very exciting. I actually think Starks is a better wrestler than Jay White, like in-ring wise. He's more fun to watch. Juice, on the other hand, is kind of like Jay White as well, but less good at talking. But granted, we haven't seen him be at his full potential yet with Bullet Club. He's only been with the faction for 1 year, and then now it looks like they're about to disband. He's pretty much just the guy who says the nice lines. He's the guy who like makes all of the sound effects and says all of the cool lines. Not really like a consistent, prolonged promo guy. But again, wasn't given a chance. Jay White is the one who speaks all the time in New Japan, so who knows? Juice might excel in AEW. I'm okay with having this feud until a special Dynamite. Hell, even bring in the Bullet Club guys. The Impact Tag Champs. As well as Kenta. Bring them all in. Overall, this was done alright, but Juice should have cut a promo. Because he cut a promo backstage and it was like pretty good. It's like a rock and roll, very appealing to Americans sort of voice and promo style. So I don't know why you're not letting Juice cut promos. But for this to work, it needs to have more than just Juice. Bullet Club are a group, it's a brotherhood. And if you only have one guy, how the hell is that Bullet Club? A Bullet Man. Bring in Kenta, Chris Bay, and Ace Austin. Just do it. More exposure for Impact, more exposure for New Japan Strong. Just do it. So this turns out to be a night of promos, because after this is Ruby Soho's promo. And I think it's her breakout heel promo. She does good ones as a face, but it's never really appreciated. She never really like bites in her promos. It's as inoffensive as it can be, but she's like a natural at babyface promos. And it's actually not surprising, since I think that in one Up Up Down Down episode, Ruby Soho and Xavier Woods talked about how they were in musicals, how they were like performance student artists. So she has acting experience. And it shows tonight. But she's always had this. The mouth-breathing neckbeard trolls were just unappreciative. She can do sympathetic real well, that it even works as a heel. She didn't go full Riot Squad where she just like stuck her tongue out. They made her into a cringy punk. But here she stays calm and then she explains her motives. She explains why the hell she turned heel. And it's some valid reasons. She came in as a babyface. She chose AEW over the WWE. And then as a babyface, fans cheered for the AEW original heels. And it just slowly built up, match after match, against Britt Baker, against Jamie Hayter, against Jade Cargill. She has had enough. She's not gonna take it anymore. She also says that she's found common ground with Toni Storm and Saraya, and this is what this feud needed. We need like concrete examples of why you're doing this. And she points out how Toni Storm was not named like a champion until after she lost the belt to an AEW original. And then I have to admit that I've criticized Toni Storm as well. She had a terrible Alabama slam that she thankfully removed, but she's doing a lot better now. That hip attack is like the best in the business ever. And as for Saraya, she just needs some time to like get the ring rust off. But it's so real how she was asked to come back. People were so excited at her joining AEW, and then they just ended up shitting on her. But that's mostly coming from the fucking heartbroken WWE fans who can't forgive treachery or perceive treachery, just like with AEW fans and Cody Rhodes. So then she calls out Sky Blue and then the match starts. Yeah, this leads up to a match. But I like how commentary, like each of them, have their own opinions. So first, I'm with Taz since I believe that she made legitimate points. A lot of the originals, especially the baddies, aren't very good. Getting better, but really? Being undefeated as TBS champion for such a long time? Excalibur sides with the originals, and Tony says that she should just get over it, which is also pretty true as well. The match itself was very Ruby dominated. Like, it was pretty much enhancement with a little bit of offense from Sky. And it's not really a match that's worthy of International Women's Day. Like, it's a good match. It did its job. It made Ruby look strong and had a cool finish where she just like pulled Sky Blue's head, delivers a destination unknown, and then she wins. But this is International Women's Day. It's the same case with Orange Cassidy. The match needed to be more exciting. Maybe a Jamie match would have been nice, or like a tag match. But yeah, top spot of the match is this line by Ruby where she says, "Homegrown baby," as she's like patting Sky Blue on the head. So yeah, that's the top spot. Finish, I guess, was good as well. That's number 2. So yeah, this match is TV main event, and honestly, it was pretty good. For a crowd that's not very lively, they gave this some love. But post-match, this is where like the story truly plays in. Because I love that they address right away the friendship between her and Willow Nightingale. Because just as the heels are starting to brand Sky Blue with their green paint, freaking Willow Nightingale shows up, and then they do this. I mean, she tries this like same thing that Ruby did to her before the pay-per-view. I forgot when this happened, but it's this like head-to-head thing, very best friendsy, very romantic as well, question mark. But yeah, Ruby has none of this. Saraya and Tony flank Willow from the back, and then both her and Sky get spray painted. We better get a promo of this, and we better get Athena in this feud, because I heard she just had a banger against Willow on Ring of Honor, which I'm probably going to review now. So yeah, everything in this whole feud, in this like progression of the feud, in this whole segment and match combination was executed perfectly. Like, this is how it should have been from the start, but thankfully they course correct. And now we finally have the intentions, we have the sides. They just need to add a bit more people, and then we might have a better invasion angle. So after this is Hangman Page's promo. And it looks like Hangman is getting an attitude adjustment. Like a more secure, a much more ass-kicking sort of Hangman. I like it, but he needs to show it more. He declares that he's done with Mox in front of his wife, but that doesn't seem to be the case for later. But yeah, there are a lot of promos here. I think they should add like backstage cinematic segments like Impact, like I say every week. Just having promos over and over again, like having backstage confrontations via promo, gets kind of tiring. It makes you miss like what Impact's doing, where there's an invisible cameraman in the room. It's sort of a bit too WWE, but come on, it works. It's a nice change of pace, and I miss those. So after this is the MJF promo. It's a video promo, like post-match from Revolution. He's not actually in the building, but this was really good. It fits in perfectly with my MJF and Wardlow short. Go watch it, because MJF is over the moon. His confidence is like 100%. It actually feels like he got a power-up after the preparation as well as going through a 60-minute Iron Man match. He needs to be portrayed as visibly stronger and a whole lot hell more confident than he was before the match. Because he just beat Bryan Danielson via submission. It wasn't like a dirty tactic, pin, 1, 2, 3. It was like a dirty tactic. It took a bit of time, and then he made Danielson tap out. That experience should be sold as like life-changing. It also puts over the match type as like a premier AEW match. But yeah, with all of this accounted for, I think he should go after Wardlow. Like, he himself, as champion, should actively seek revenge against Wardlow. I wanted him to be the one to screw over Wardlow against Powerhouse Hobbs. That would have made sense and would have been like a more memorable image than what ended up happening later, but it's not too late. And then as for the promo itself, it's what you expect. It's MJF without all the cheap heat garnering. It's actually like he's developed, but we'll only be sure of that next week. I like the lines about Eyes of March, Et tu Brute, and then he announces a rebar mitzvah, which I'm very scared of, because if you have like this like religious based thing, especially Jewish, this might leave the way open to some anti-Semitism. Like, AEW has to do this very carefully. If they portray this like as a heel thing too much, like the ceremony, it could be the thing that gets them cancelled. But that's only if they like fuck it up too much. But yeah, love the idea. Rebar Mitzvah next week with MJF. So after this is another promo, and it's by FTR. So first of all, I think Dax is working everyone. As a competent promoter, there is no way that you would let like these guys who are fan favorites, whose contracts are expiring, feature prominently on your show, especially if they're this loved. They're also clearly being set up against the champions. Like all of you who think that AEW are actually going to leave, there is no chance that they don't have a contract yet. And then if they win, that just like confirms it. Why would you let anyone this talented, especially if they become champions, leave the company as champions where they can bury your belt in another company? So it's nice that they get their shatter machine back. And the promo they cut points to them staying because they put over AEW as the best company in the world. And I'm not sure that's even true. Financially, no. Storylines, no. Match quality in America, yes. Women's division, not really. Morality, I guess so, yes. Everyone knows Impact has the best women's division. But yeah, their promo is all about the ass boys. Cash starts garnering sympathy first and then moves on to explaining their intention. And they're very clear. Nepotism babies versus the hard workers. Am I the baddie? Then Dax is the one who like sinks this one in. I think he secures their contract if they don't have one yet. He brings up this thing about their last memory with Jay Briscoe was ruined by the ass boys at the last ROH pay-per-view, which is true, that happened. And I'm glad that they're including it in the storyline. Now this is a fucking story. And this might be segment of the night. So after this is Jade Cargill's promo. So Jade does a good promo here. It's better than how she did back in the day. Better than last year. Short and sweet, and then calling for a Canadian opponent for next week. Problem is, I don't know any active big name Canadians who might get the TV rating as well as the crowd response. Honestly, I'm just waiting for Jade to lose the title and then go to Japan. Just have a tour, preferably at Stardom, but Tokyo Joshi Pro would be fine as well. But she needs to pile up the losses, because if she just keeps winning the matches, like, what's that gonna do? If like everything's just gonna be a squash over at Japan, nothing's gonna change. She needs to pay her dues in Japan, lose to the biggest talent in competitive matches, and then come back to AEW to like fully realize her potential. So for the Canadian wrestler that Jade asks for, I've seen everyone's suggestions on social media, on Reddit, on Twitter, and it has to be a big name who's good in the ring and who's active. So all of the independent women are out. Except maybe Jody Threat, but she could be included in the independent women. Also, women who might still be injured and part of the company already and won't get a big of a pop in Canada, or like won't draw the rating, should not be included. The Bunny's not allowed. She's also heel, so it wouldn't make sense. Next is Lufisto, and I think it would be good. I've heard Kevin Owens talk about her, and I've also seen some of her highlights. She's pretty good. A veteran of the sport, she can legit carry Jade to a great match. She's like 43, so she doesn't even need to win. Next are the more likely picks, and they're considerably bigger names than Lufisto, and they're active on Impact. We have Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary, but I would lean more on Rosemary, since she doesn't have a championship. Taya Valkyrie is like a knockouts tag team champion, so you can't have her lose. I also think it would serve Jade to have like a smaller opponent. But for me, I think the best choice would be Gail Kim. She's a producer on Impact. She's like a part of management. She's the most popular and she can get the most buzz for the product, so she's the best choice, even if it's just like a 5-minute match. Just having her in the show would be a big help for the ratings, and I guess for the fans. Oh shit, her last match was 4 years ago against Tessa Blanchard. So yeah, that's my pick. And so after this is the third match of the show. It starts out the second hour, and damn, that was a lot of promos. So this match is JAS with Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Daniel Garcia against Top Flight with AR Fox, Dante Martin, and Darius Martin. So this is like a thrown together match that modifies an ongoing story. So the match is like the usual structure, but it's way more comedy with JAS and show stealing with Top Flight. This might actually be my match of the night. Because like in between stuff, like mid-match, during the slowdown phase, JAS got my attention with their poses. And they do a lot of them. Even with the entire JAS group, like all 6 of them who are there. This is exactly how I want the feud between Daniel Garcia and Sammy Guevara to build up. Like have them get along. Have them be flux compatible until you break them down. I love the isolation of Dante Martin, as well as the comeback mainly by AR Fox. Dante's the whipping boy, AR Fox is the hero, and then Darius takes the pin. But he does some pretty cool stuff as well, including this Spanish fly on Chris Jericho. So for the top spots of the match, number 3 is, I guess, the monkey flip. It's a very simple spot, just a monkey flip on Sammy, and then he does like a full flip. Number 2 is the dropkick by AR Fox, where he like goes through the second rope with, I think Sammy or Danny like draped on it. And then number 1 is like this part where Fox goes through an obstacle course and then delivers a double cutter. Yeah, double cutter. The finish is unsatisfying since JAS didn't need to cheat. This made them look pretty weak. Because we get a Jake Hager shot on Darius, Judas effect, Chris Jericho gets the pin. As a faction that's stronger than Top Flight, they shouldn't have won this way. Like, come on. Not every heel needs to cheat. So yeah, this is my match of the night. This is TV main event, pay-per-view undercard. So everyone cuts promos, and I'll rank them based on how good they did. We have Daddy Magic at number 1 as the best entertainer. We have Ange at number 2, Jericho at number 3, and then Sammy, and then Hager, and then Danny. And then after this, shockingly, the heels go after a heel team and then challenge the House of Black. And I guess they're pretty confident because they outnumber them. It's 6-on-3, and then if you include the women, it's 8-on-4. So I was excited with the House of Black becoming babyfaces since they're already cheered this way. But they should really be this like neutral force that doesn't care if you like them or not. They're just there to be cool. And that's kind of how they felt. They don't shit on the crowd, they just want to look cool and like practice their pagan shit. But I think you need to add more to that. Like maybe do something like what the designer doing in Impact. But that's too like stereotypical. Or have them just destroy everyone. I don't know. I'm not the booker. And it's been too damn long for these guys. And the trios titles are kind of limiting. So that's what we get. So lights go out. Like Jericho explicitly says this. Do your awesome entrance, turn off the lights, come for us. But then the Elite show up. And then Jericho gets torn a new asshole. Because Kenny talks first, and then we get a tease of this like sort of rift that's forming between him and Don Callis. And then Callis proceeds to bury his ass. He's not the best wrestler from Winnipeg. That's Kenny. Then if Callis trained, Jericho would be number 3. This is all fine and well. Like nothing out of the ordinary. I still think the Elite shouldn't have done this. They should have moved on from this feud, but maybe after the trios match. Maybe they're just doing it gradually, as they're trying to sign them to new contracts. But shit gets real when the stars of the show show up. House of Black. We get a promo on the Titantron. It's like sufficiently dark to like cover everything except for the Tron, giving enough time for House of Black to get into position, and then lights turn off, couple of seconds, turn back on, and then we have House of Black in the middle of the Elite and JAS. And this is an awesome visual. Matt is scared of Brody King, and he's the only one facing the Elite. He's the only one they need to hold off the Elite, as Buddy, Malachi, and Julia face off against JAS, like all 6 of them. This made House of Black look so strong. They should have that singles match between Buddy and Kenny. Can't fucking wait! I'm so pumped! But nothing happens, they disappear, and then everyone loses their balls. They falter and don't have the will to fight anymore. And that's how we end the segment. Really cool. I like the modification to the story, but I just want the Elite to do something more substantial in their respective divisions. So maybe after they lose. And then the House of Black can just like destroy JAS, like faction on faction. So after this is the Danielson promo. And this is his best promo in AEW. And maybe of all time. And it's not even part of a feud, it's the epilogue. It's very emotional, and then he pours his heart and soul out and brings us a bit of Hollywood level acting for just a couple of seconds. We definitely did not get this until now. Danielson is shook to the core because he gave up, he tapped out just so he can preserve his life and play with his kids, and then he's ashamed of that. This is a nice way to take him off of TV, maybe for a couple of months, after he does the G1, and then he has to be the one to take the belt off of MJF. He just secured it with the promo and the match. Maybe a nice tournament arc will be nice for All In 2 or All Out. But he definitely has to win. He needs to be a champion before he retires because I don't think he has a lot of time left as like a full-time star. So after this is BCC with Mox and Claudio versus the Dark Order with John Silver and Alex Reynolds. So honestly, this felt like it should have happened before the match with Hangman, as well as the feud that they build up after this. It should have happened all before fucking the Texas Deathmatch, because nothing says feud ender like Texas Deathmatch, or Blood and Guts, or Iron Man match, and the list goes on. Even Hell in a Cell. That's a feud ender. And I don't like that there's not much like visible damage on Mox. They should have put more makeup on him. He should have sold more. He should have like been the whipping boy, honestly. He should have been sufficiently weakened to get his ass kicked by dudes who are like lower than them on the card. Claudio should have been doing all of the heavy lifting here. And yeah, he does most of the work. But John doesn't sell the injury against Hangman too much. Man got hanged. So the story of the match is the BCC turning heel without the guidance of Danielson and Regal. It's a more pure form of their mission statement. The match is the usual structure. BCC cut the ring in half. They do it very well, especially when Claudio slipped from the outside and then he grabbed, I think it's Reynolds from midair. It's hard-hitting, technical wrestling, and I think whenever Johnny Hungy and Claudio were in the ring, it was electric. But I think the match needed a bit more speed since we didn't get that for like most of the other matches. Top Flight had their wings cut off, like basically only AR Fox was doing the high spots then, and for this one it needed a bit more like Dark Order combinations. Just speed. Not everything needs to be a storyteller. Top 2 spots of the match, I think it's when number 3 is when Hungy suplexes Claudio. The height difference is very funny, and it's a nice visual. Spot number 2 is the Reynolds rush. He does a sort of like John Silver thing that ends with this like flying kick as someone is draped on the ropes, but it's not as good. And then number 1 spot is the finish. Mox does not let go of the hold and then makes Reynolds pass out. So post-match is a continued beatdown of Reynolds and Silver. Evil Uno shows up, he gets beaten down, and then Hangman shows up. He tries to fulfill his word of like things being over with Mox, but this terrible booking just can't seem to stop following Hangman. They reignite the feud. It's on again for Winnipeg next week, and then even Mox joins in the beating. There shouldn't be a rubber match. This should be it. Have Stu and Uno rejoin the tag division and then cut off this feud. Or have Hangman feud against Claudio. That's the only way to like make things more exciting. I don't think it's time to feud him up with MJF yet. I want Wardlow to fall first since he's not really the best candidate to take the belt off of MJF. He's not like hot enough. Maybe it'll be like a roller coaster curve with Danielson being high, Wardlow like dipping down, and then Hangman bringing it up again. TV main event. And so after this, before the main event, is the Acclaimed with Daddy Ass against Daddy Magic and Cool and Ange backstage promo battle, I guess. So JAS, 2 of the best promos in the company. They try to recruit the Acclaimed using great points. They are sports entertainers because of the raps. But then the Acclaimed just laugh at them. It's like with that Keith and Swerve video. And then they managed to like insert the lines, "You Michael Jackson Thriller looking ass, and we get more TV time than you." This is what I want for the Acclaimed. As they're not in contention, as they're making their way back, they should face off against teams who can come at them promo-wise. It's also a good way to build up 2.0. So yeah, and then after this is the main event. Wardlow versus Powerhouse Hobbs, Falls Count Anywhere. But it's a weird Falls Count Anywhere since you can win by like a 10 count. It's also a last man standing match. So they go through a lot of things just to protect Wardlow, where the only thing you needed to do was to have one of your strongest wrestlers in MJF just attack him, just help Hobbs. But no, you had to have QT Marshall help, but I'll get to that later. So everything starts from backstage, and they focus on various things. Like, it's not messy, it's not like the video game. They're allowed to destroy a set number of things, and that's what they do. Backstage brawls are better when you have like comedic elements, like at WrestleMania 17, or at Anarchy in the Arena. But here it's a serious fight between two big guys. So I guess you can't do that. But you could have just inserted some Easter eggs. That would have been nice. Like, have him tear the door off of something and then you find Danhausen there. Tear this like wall. Break through this wall and then you suddenly find the Elite. Just like add stuff like that to increase the levity. But they focus on a car, they fuck it up real good. They took some pretty good bumps on the car. I think Hobbs goes through the windshield, and then they destroy the door, they like destroy a window. They like Street Fightered the car. They took pretty minor bumps after this. I think one was through like a wall, like a thin hollow wall. It's always back and forth. I could have used someone throwing someone on like the food, on catering, but maybe this was short notice. Yeah, the match wasn't bad, but I wish they could have done more. Add a bit of like funny stuff, but have them like take it so seriously. Just like the Elite's Falls Count Anywhere match. That was really fun. But yeah, they make their way into the arena, into the ring. I like that there's no running away. Hobbs never runs away. It's a shocking development when the heels don't run away from the babyface in a match like this, because they're always on each other. When they get to the ring, pretty basic stuff happens. Wardlow hits a swanton bomb through a table. That's top spot of the match. Number 3 is a power bomb on the ramp. And then number 2 is the finish. And I like the finish itself. Like, if you don't consider who's the one helping Hobbs, I like the finish. It's a power bomb on like the area below the stage. It's a power bomb off of the stage. But what ruins this is QT Marshall is the person that helped Hobbs. And I have a problem with this since, I know that this is consistent with a storyline a couple of months ago, but who really cares? I even remember it. I reviewed it. But again, QT Marshall has not been built up enough. We could have gotten a reminder or anything. Have him win matches, have him start his QT TV gimmick, and then have this match like maybe at a special Dynamite 3 to 4 weeks from now. But if you don't have time to do that, if it had to be the week after the pay-per-view, the only way to make Wardlow look strong, to make it look like he went forward instead of back, was to have MJF take revenge against him. You can have MJF go with all of his confidence and his power-ups. You could have him go after Wardlow. Have him seek revenge. Have him just go, "Do you think I forgot what you did to me? War Pig? You humiliated me at Double or Nothing, so consider this as payback. I'm gonna take away your TNT title and more." I'm not a good promo. MJF can do better. I'm gonna let him handle that, but that would have been so much better so you can lead on to MJF's next feud. It's gonna have a storyline behind it. It's gonna happen at the same pay-per-view, 1 year after the actual breakup. And Wardlow doesn't even have to win the belt. And most importantly, this protects Wardlow. It makes him move from the TNT title to the world title. But now with QT Marshall, it looks like it's a big step back. I don't know about this whole QT Marshall gimmick. I'm sure he can do well with it, but it's not something you want to hook Wardlow on. Beating QT doesn't do anything for Wardlow anymore. And then if they set up a rematch for this, and then have Wardlow win it back, Tony Khan will be like the worst booker. Like, nothing he'll do in 2023 can save him from being the worst fucking booker if that title goes back to fucking Wardlow. So yeah, that's it for this show. I like the promos, I like the segments, but the matches not very much. And that ending, That ending to the main event could have been done so much better, and I made a short. Go watch it. So yeah, I'm liking the storylines, but AEW needs to get those matches in order. They need to stop overexposing the guys. They need to build up to MJF's next feud and maybe have him hunt people down. So yeah, for me, this is like an average Dynamite. Small increase in ratings, it's barely anything. But it's not as bad a show as people like say that it is. It's basically a Monday Night Raw. So yeah, bye-bye.